Hello, good afternoon, morning, evening, night, dusk, twilight, whatever time you might be watching. Good evening. Presumably it's the evening. I'm gonna do another Aurora set of things today. It's just gonna be one, but maybe, just maybe, I might be able to incorporate a second one. But actually I'm going to split them into two videos because I think that's more easily accessible, so it'll be like one stream, maybe, depending on how much time this takes, and it'll only be two videos rather than one, so that might be slightly more easy to access in general. You know, that's kind of how I feel about it. But which one are we doing today? Oh yeah, it's going to be I Went Too Far. Hey, this is not one of my favorites. Yeah, I see I've written G minor here. Well, I shouldn't have. It's not G minor because of the reasons that I have said previously. Okay, so minor is a sort of Western concept of we have all the chords of the aeolian scale or mode, but we don't have we don't have the ones that include the seventh note 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 unaltered. We have an altered seventh note which moves it up. So when we're thinking of chords in the minor, we always have a weird 3 augmented chord, which doesn't generally come up in pop music. We have a 5 major chord, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we make a major chord, okay, which would normally be a minor chord. And then we also have the 7th altered to give us another diminished chord. Minor always has a diminished chord on the 2, but now we have one on the 7 as well. So we can make this Übermensch diminished chord, mixing them both together. That's not normally how it's thought of though, but that is what it is. It's diminished 7th chord. Woo! Well, let's see if that comes up. No, it's not going to. It's aeolian. It's aeolian mode. Okay, there's no deviation from that in this. Almost none. Almost none. Yeah. I won't say none, just in case. But that means we're keeping to the standard chords of the mode. No alterations. So everything sounds slightly more archaic, slightly more medieval. It's funny how things come around, isn't it? But yeah, that's what we're doing today. Let's have a listen. Oh, shush me. Goodness me. Nice to know there's a bit of a delay in case I need to suddenly tap out. Okay, very, very short intro, isn't it? And that's just these chords, okay? Now I've done the piano in a bit of a silly way this time, but it's just these chords. So if we're in G aeolian, this is chord 6. Oh, where are we? Oh yeah, I'm playing everything too low. Okay, very, very straightforward. It's just the 3 notes of the chord. 1, 3, 5, and then they move up. 1, 3, 5, and then they move down. 1, 3, 5. So we get 6, 8 or 1 and 8 are the same, and then 7. Okay. Similar set of chords to the ones we've had in a lot of these different songs, but they are in a different order. What's kind of fun about this one is that I think it doesn't really feel very rested on that second chord. We get the 6 at the beginning, which by itself feels quite rested, but then when we go to the 1 or the G minor, that sort of feels like just a slight bit of unrest in comparison, an unexpected shift. If that was a major, if that was our root chord, then that would be a 1 to a 3, and 3 is a pretty rare chord that feels, yeah, definitely not as rested as it could. So we've got a kind of comparative action there that is pretty weird. And then it comes to land on the 7. Well, that rules out a major ionian kind of feel, because in major that would be a minor chord, like that, okay? So that puts us more towards that being the minor chord here, okay? But we're still landing on that 7 chord for ages, twice as long as the other chords. Does it feel like the rest? The home place? Not to me. But anyway, that's just some chords by itself. Now they continue into the next section. Let's hear it.
Too far when I was begging on my knees.
Oh, I'm in the wrong view on here. Let's just go continuous. There we go. Yeah. Okay. So there's our first melody. Compared to the very static nature of these chords, not moving very much, this is quite an elaborate melody. Now, notes-wise, not so much. I went too far when I was begging on my knees. 3 notes. 1 starts at the beginning, then it comes down, then it comes down. Okay, and it has so many syllables for each note, especially that middle note that has far when I was begging on, all on the same note. Before my knees comes down, with a little bit of a slide off at the end. We have a slight melisma at the beginning. I went too far. Just those 2. Just sliding into the note, really. Not much of a melisma. I guess you could think about the rhythmic weighting of these notes. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe Aurora wrote this when she was very young, like 9 or something like that. Let's see if we can tell. But one way we might tell that is less elaborate melodies. This is not that elaborate, but do we have sensible weighting on these notes? Well, I is a little bit longer than went to, which kind of makes sense. Far is quite long. I went too far when I was begging on my knees. Well, begging on's a little long, which is a little odd, but it moves on quite quickly. On my knees. And I before that. Far when I is about as long as on. So yeah, so it sort of skips between skips over these middle words. Begging, I would have thought would be quite an important word. It's put on a beat, so I was begging, I was begging on my knees, but it is sped over. My knees kind of makes sense, but yeah, knees and far are the main ones here. I went too far when I was begging on my knees. Yeah, kind of makes sense. Yeah, but it's interesting how we just speed through some words in the middle. But to be honest, we don't have that much time. We leave a kind of whole bar of nothing after this, though, so we could have extended into that. But even the next melody doesn't do that. Let's listen to the next melody.
Begging for your arms, for you to hold around me.
Yeah, we extend that last note into the last bar, but there's still no movement in that last bar, which is a kind of interesting choice. Yeah, this melody, well, much more active, isn't it? And quite interesting that in these first 2 we've already got our most unexpected notes. So these semitone changes. I went too far That's where we don't normally get that interval when we're just dealing with pentatonics. Okay, when we're going, no, we wouldn't have that flat 6 there, but we have that straight at the beginning of the first chord. So we're not worried about the emotional high riders, and we get the other one right at the end of this first. There we go, just passing over right at the end of the phrase there. Me. Interesting as well how these two phrases match up with the chords. I went to, it's totally fine. For anticipation for the G minor. When I was begging on my anticipation knees. Okay. Then we get begging for your arms. Well, that's actually just spelling out that chord. For you to all around. That's all fine. The last note that it ended on as well is a note that they have in common between the E flat and the G minor there, the 6 and the 1. Well, and then again an anticipation as we change to that that F. But then on that chord, on the F chord, it comes down to settle on the G. That's kind of strange. We were saying how G is our sort of rest, maybe, our number 1, our chord 1. But when we're doing a chord 7, that doesn't feel like a strong rest. There was some similar things happening in Puppet, if I remember correctly. Yeah, because it goes down to a 7 chord, doesn't it? And then she goes, what key is it? Da 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 da. So we get that added 9. It's the same added 9 here. That me. So maybe that's a sign of an early Aurora composition. It's quite nice though, isn't it? It doesn't feel like an aggressive dissonance.
I went too far and kissed the ground beneath your feet, waiting for your love, waiting for eyes to meet.
Yeah. Well, 2 more phrases. They're very similar to the first 2. We get a little melisma there on fa, up note and jumping back down, so an escape note, quite fun. And actually I think that was the only note we were missing overall, is that F, so we've just put that in and now we've got a full selection of the 7 notes in the melody here. And kiss the ground beneath your, ground quite long there, your 4 feet, little melisma going down. It ends in the same kind of place, feet, and then it goes down to the next chord tone, just with a passing note in between. So just a nice little extra. Waiting for your love. Well, there we use that F a little bit more, don't we? Da 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 da. Well, this is quite different to the one that came before. Da 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 da, which spelled out that that arpeggio, that chord. It spelled out the chord. Do do do. But this one's going do 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 do. So it starts on those higher 2 notes of the chords and then comes down to an F out of chord. Odd jump, but it does still set us up for the next chord with that anticipation note. Waiting for eyes to meet. Again, anticipation there, and again resolving in inverted commas to the note that's in between those main 2 notes of the chord. Okay, so we get this slightly more complex sound. But I want to draw attention to the A flat there. On this G chord we have one of these blues melismas that we occasionally get on Aurora, especially in this period. I So in the previous one we've got me, and we'd use the A natural there. But this one, flies, we use a very quick A flat, giving us that slightly darker side of things. Yeah, it's really nice, because we could have gone waiting for eyes, right? It wouldn't have been much of a change, but waiting for eyes feels a little more natural, but it also feels a little darker, a little more unexpected. Yeah, it's a good choice. Yeah, we really like those. And that's then the first two verses. Moving on. Yeah, already straight away in this section, let's say chorus, we've got new chords, we've got two melodies. Well, let's have a look at the chords first. Okay, so we've got a low C, giving us a different chord that we've not had before. It's giving us that C minor. Okay, now we don't really have all the notes of that for most of the thing here. We don't have the piano doing just these big declamatory triads anymore. We have the bass note, we have the melody, and we have a few other notes floating around in the ether that I've not bothered tabbing out, but yeah, we definitely have the this one here, E flat, giving us that third. Then we move to E flat, we move to the E flat chord, and the E flat moves in the bass. How would we be able to tell that that was absolutely a chord change? If we had a note like C, which isn't in the next chord, then that would feel more like a chord change, and that's what happens. We have a C at the bottom, and then the C is not there in the next chord, so it really feels like a chord change. And then on that last one, yeah, sorry, the third one was G. We really only got a load of G's in the J chord though, at least in the accompaniment, and then we get a third for that 7 chord. So this is very similar to the set of chords we had before, 6, 1, 7. We've just got a 4 on the beginning as well, 4, 6, 1, 7. Now here's interesting. Sometimes I wonder to go, but not the man of course is so true. Is that right? Does it do it in that in the section? Yeah, it does. Dreaming of a wonderland, but something is a man taking control over another man's mind, or taking control over another man's mind, or take. It's the same chord sequence as in Puppet. Okay, another sign of an early Aurora piece, perhaps, using the same chord sequence. Maybe it's a coincidence. Now, we have one simple melody, and that goes lower than the other one. Yeah. This is quite nice. It's a simple melody. It's got this nice line that happens. It's sort of doing, it's linking together these first two chords with the same movement at the beginning of the bar, but we do have a change between those two. First one, it lands on that 7 of the chord, so an extra note, 1, 2, 3, 4, and it lands on that. Doesn't feel uncomfortable particularly. Then we get the movement, and it stays like that for the rest of the bar. And then we get the movement of the chord, we get the same movement. Now that's now the B flat is part of that chord. It feels very comfortable. The C that comes just before feels like an overextension that then retracts. But then it actually goes down to an A, which is not part of that chord. That's interesting. Thank goodness we don't have like a full heavy chord set here, because we've just got those E's, and that goes up there. It sounds a little more open. We don't have strong overt clashes like we could have that going on in the middle. We just have this slightly uncomfortable chord with those 3 notes and whatever's going on in the other melody. Then we get to our G chord, and it's on a C. Well, that says not G chord. That says a sustained 4th, which then resolves. Nice, G chord, and then it goes to the F chord, and it's an F note. It's the A. But then we go back up to the B flat, and we've got that sustained feeling again, or that added 11 feeling, where this chord doesn't feel resolved. It feels like there's something nagging. It's not too upsetting a nagging, but it is like quite an insistent one. Yeah, interesting. So this melody then is going sort of irrelevantly to the chords to some degree. It fits sometimes, and then it moves to somewhere else that doesn't fit with the chords very quickly. So we're getting 2 separate wefts of music there. They're still in the same key, thank goodness, but they are going in different directions. What about this top melody then? This is a whole lot more active. Yeah. Well, sorry, I sounded so off there. It's pentatonic, this one. Maybe that gives it a brighter feeling, a less emotionally driven feeling than the previous section. But interestingly, that lower melody, that's not pentatonic. That's giving us this semitone relationship there between the flat 3 and the 2. This doesn't have it, this top one. This is just bright. I had a theory that that in this section the melody was giving us more of a major kind of feeling, like a B flat major. And it kind of is, but that seems to be maybe missing some other points. The thing about that is, though, that this pentatonic melody is going to work over whatever chords we want to put under it. Let's just give an experiment here. So we're going to go yeah, let's start there. You know, that kind of thing. That is actually the chord that it's meant to be. Right, we could play around with all those chords and more, and we could come up with loads and loads of ways that would work, because the pentatonic doesn't hold a lot of necessity for what chords go underneath it. And so the way it relates to these chords is somewhat superfluous. We get the C minor chord, and then we've got firstly this F at the beginning, give, and we come back down to that F at the end. That's not in the chord. The top note, some, that's not in the chord either, but that's the added 7. So that would be the 4th note of the chord if we extended it up like that. And we do have that working in that lower melody at this point, so it's there, but yeah, we're resolving onto the note that's not in that chord. Then nice to go all the way up to that D, but yeah, again, lots of F. Nice how we have that da 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 at the beginning of both of these, but it's a slightly different rhythm. The first time it's gimme, and this one it's give me, right? Get the idea? Gimme some, or give me some, right? So the me and the give are given different weightings between the two. I think that might be, but I've tabbed it as 2Fs, and it doesn't really matter. All the same notes, all those 5 notes, and then as we get to the G minor chord, we're on the 7th again. Now we don't have this given to us by the other chord, and we just go back and forth between those two. Now this is kind of why I think we've got that B flat tonality, that major, relative major tonality there, because we're not giving a lot of the G minor notes, we're giving a lot of the B flat major notes. That said, we're not giving a lot of B flat here. We did give it on the first one though. And then hold me tight. Tight does actually resolve to that F chord, so that's kind of nice. What about the next time through?
Oh, give me some love, give me some love and hold me, give me some love and hold me tight. Yeah.
Yeah, and then we have yeah at the end there. Okay, can you see that? Let's just check. Yeah, okay. We got the same melody underneath. That's fine. But we got this slight variation on the first melody. A slight hint of the A flat there again, just a slight one. But we have an A natural to begin with. So on that F chord, 1, 2, 3, oh, nice in chord notes. Give. And again, that's sort of acting like the anticipations that we have, but it's not doing an anticipation, or if it is, it's doing an anticipation of the 7 of the chord, which is not strictly one of them, but to be honest, it feels like one of them in this context, so let's just say it is. Maybe it's giving us that anticipation of the B flat that we never get. Either way, something to do with how this melody works makes it feel a lot brighter than the previous one, doesn't it? It might also be to do with the texture, it might also be to do with the pitch, just it being higher, and to do with the way that Aurora is singing it as well. So there's so many things that can come into this. I think there's something inherently in the notes as well. Okay, the way that it weights on these, these ones for a B flat, and it only weights on the G a brief moment there. Yeah, so that first phrase, it doesn't go up like that. Da ba da ba da. It starts there really. Da 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 da, and it doesn't quite move as much either. More insistent maybe with that rhythm. Give me some love, and give me some love. Very different feelings to those rhythms. Okay, give me some love and hold me. Yeah, same kind of thing here. Very slidey, isn't it? Actually, love. We almost don't make it all the way to that top note. Love and hold me. Yes, okay, didn't notice it, but we've got this threes rhythm here, slightly hidden. Da ba da ba da ba da ba da. It's not that actually. Da ba da ba da ba da ba da da. 3 3 3 3 2 2. Give me some love and hold me. Okay, so that same rhythm that we got in Conqueror, we got it in the slightly longer form. Da 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 da. This is da 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 da. 3 3 3 3 2 2 instead of 3 3 2 3 3 2. Right? Does that make sense? I hope so. Yeah. So we get the same kind of thing here, just for that bar though. So it's not constant. Da 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 da. There, it's kind of 3 3 2 2 2 2 3 3 2 2 2 2 2. Okay, so yeah, a slight hint of the same thing. And again, on these ones, that we were actually back to where we were the first time. Not there. Okay, so these two notes, adding the 7th of that G chord, and then that resolving even though it's the same note it's been singing, it resolves into this chord. This chord is unresolved though. Yeah. That's quite nice. Now where does this suggest it's going? I don't know. We have always gone from this there or there, and that's what we get. Yeah. That points us towards this E flat again, with that nice melody that uses another of those semitone intervals. So interesting how the chorus melody just doesn't have those close intervals like we just got coming out of it. Seems like a very conscious decision, and we're going back into oh, that's weird. That's probably a wrong timestamp, I should imagine. Okay, and then we're getting back into the verse. Let's get it.
I went too far when I was begging on my knees.
We've got some more things going on in the background here that I think I haven't notated. That's a shame. Yeah, we've got a sort of hint. Yeah, so it's going to be something that is doing this knees melody that actually Aurora doesn't do there. She does begging on my knees. But one time she does do knees. There's something that does that in the background, and it's in parallel fifths. So we get that. Now parallel fifths can occasionally give us some weird things if we stick to them rigidly, which Aurora tends not to. But in Running with the Wolves we got this kind of thing where we got an unexpected note because of those parallel fifths, and that's what happens here too. We get this E in the harmony, which is really weird. We've been doing E flats and F, and then we get this strange hint at an F major 7, which has this, yeah, slightly uncomfortably sickly sound to me. But it's just a hint, and it's in the background. Yeah, and then we get those extra notes. Yeah, so that's fun. That's over here, and we've got a D, which isn't in this chord. Doesn't sound uncomfortable. It's the 6 if it was in the chord. Going down to the third of the chord. Sounds okay. Yeah, the third of the chord is just fine, and then it goes up to the 5th of the next chord. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. Straightforward. The first note catches you a little off guard, but then all the others are just fine.
When I cut my hand so you could stand and watch me bleed.
Very, very similar to the previous one. Is it coming in slightly later? No. Actually, all of these are coming in right in the same place. 1, I went too far, or 1, begging for you, or 1, I went too far, or 1, waiting for you. Are all coming in exactly the same place, which is great. Yeah, but very similar, just fitting in a few different words. So you could stand and watch me bleed. But really, really similar to that second one in the first verse.
I went too far and kissed the ground beneath your feet.
Now this is actually totally the same as the first, or the second verse, if you like. Maybe with some slight changes in the prosody. But more importantly, as we get to the end there, feet, we get these fun chords. Yeah, something like that, which is odd. Now we're used to sort of triadic movement with Aurora, and that's what we get between these last two. We get that while we're on F. Well, those don't match, do they? That doesn't match, that doesn't match. And even when we finish on that that D, that's not even in this chord properly. It makes it a 6 chord. Weird. We've got a discrepancy between the chords in the piano, chords in the background, and the chord that is given to us by that set of vocals. That's a little weird. Even that first one sort of gives us a weird G down here. Doctor Who. And then the others, and so we've got this big jump of these voices, very sort of clear, deliberate function. What does that mean? Very clear, deliberate action, let's say, that they've chosen to do. But it doesn't jive with the chord. It doesn't make much sense. Sounds quite nice though, doesn't it? But you hear it as, I would say, two separate things. We get the chord from the other stuff, and then we get sort of giving us a B flat major. Yeah, interesting how we've got those two things fighting, the chord sequence and the sort of preferred tones of the melody or something like that.
Standing in my blood, it was a taste of bittersweet.
Yeah, again, just a taste of bittersweet. Word painting with that A flat there. Taste of bittersweet. I gave you a little bit more of a taste there than Aurora does. Again, finishing on the G. Now, here's fun. The G's not in the F chord, and it's not in the chord that those voices give either. So we're making this whole dense set of, there's 6 separate notes in there. There's F in both parts. That's kind of joining them together. There's A and C in the accompaniment. There's B flat at the top. There's G on the main melody, and there's also D as well. So we get this quite complicated cluster with sort of F as its root. But yeah, a lot going on there, and it's held as well. It's held through that whole bar. Slightly different in the next bar, but really interesting how we just get that sometimes. It's not that common, but we have had held clusters like that in Lucky and in Running with the Wolves, and potentially some others as well that I'm forgetting. It doesn't happen in all of them. Some of the time we're quite respectful for what should be in the harmony. What effect then does it really have to have all those things? Because in a lot of contexts that would just sound overwhelming. You could really, if you were writing that for guitar instruments in a rock band, I think that would be particularly overwhelming. But here, it's almost just like there's just so many different sound sources that sort of come together. Maybe it's expressing ambivalence, expressing a difficult to enunciate emotion, in which case it's somewhat not of an early Aurora technique. Or at least not pre-Running with the Wolves EP technique. Yeah. Okay. What comes next?
Crying, give me some love, give me some love and hold me, give me some love and hold me tight.
Okay. Very similar. We've got that yeah, which sometimes I hear is coming from an F and sometimes from a G, but I'm not going to get into that too much. It doesn't really matter. We've also got this new added thing in the accompaniment, which is just doubling the bass note. Yeah. One thing I forgot to say about the first chorus is that we hold on that F chord at the end for an extra bar, and it's already a slightly unresolved feeling, but holding for that extra bar really makes us wait before we finally get back to our first section, and even that doesn't feel like a full resolution. Fun. Yeah, that's the main thing going on there. The melody is pretty much the same. I've actually said that it is the same. So let's jump over to what comes after. A post-chorus, 148. Not skipping much time there, but let's just do it.
Hold me tight. Why can't I turn around and walk away? Go back in time.
Yeah. Do, do, do. There's that, the rhythm again. Da, da, da. Why can't I? And then this big jump. So we get a harmony over the top, but the main melody jumps all the way up a seventh. Really big jump. And then we've got these parallel thirds up here, which sound very sweet, don't they? Turn around! So high, that one. Yeah, not by Aurora standards. I guess it's sort of at the beginning of Aurora's high range, and that's really nice. Very different melody to the chorus, but we have the same chords as the chorus. We've still got these guys, and we've still got our second melody. But now it has a friend. So we're going in parallel fifths up to there when they sort of shift slightly, and then in the second half they're in thirds. Still not caring at all what the chord is, but it's interesting that they don't keep in perfect parallel fifths. We do avoid that E that we didn't avoid in the accompaniment in the previous section. So when we're on that E flat chord, understandably we don't go for that E now. When we have E and E flat in the same chord, it's been done by Aurora in boxes, but it's a very uncomfortable sound, I hope you'll agree. So instead jumps over that note and goes for the D instead. Is that more comfortable a sound? I would say a little bit. We could also go for the E flat, but then we've got this odd interval, this diminished fifth in the melody there. So presumably she's avoided the E because of the false relation. She's avoided the E flat because of the diminished fifth, and she's gone with this just because that's the best of the evils, the lesser of all the evils. And then again, these next ones, they fit with the chord for a moment. Not there, but there, and there, but not there. So interesting chiasmus structure there. A, B, B, A. I always do it backwards for you, don't I? A, B, B, A. ABBA is also a chiasmus. Okay, chiasmus just means it goes A, B, 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 A. It doesn't, not very important. But you could do you can do them in language too. You could say, I read your note, and then your note was read, or something like that. I read your note, your note, hang on, yeah, no, I'm trying to think of a better one, but I can't, it's not important, I'm going to leave it. Yeah, so we've got lots more things going on here, and it does feel very packed. Feels like there's loads of things moving at the same time. We've got those in the background. We've got this, yeah. Oh gosh. And then we've got that over the top as well. Yeah, really different rhythm. Different contour somewhat, with that big jump, and then it's just doing some flowery stuff in the middle there. Yeah, it ends fortunately on some stuff that works with that chord, but it actually gets there a lot earlier. So we go ba. We're on the yeah, the G minor chord, back in time, and then we have that basically whole half of that bar, over half of the bar, back in time, before we get the F there. So really early anticipation, common trick for Aurora. It means that you don't have to change it later. You know, this could go back in time, but maybe that would make it sound a little more generic and a little more conforming. Here we have instead 3 lines that really don't pay much attention to each other. It's not like they feel like they get in each other's way, but we do get some interesting moments. You know, we've got that there for a moment with the G in the background, and then they all resolve at the same time, and then these do move away again. Yeah, some funny things, interesting decisions. You know, this isn't one of my favourites, but it does have some cool moments in it. Let's keep going. Yeah, again, we wait on that F chord for a while, but this time, after couldn't stay, I had to walk away, we have that extra bit of melody. Da 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 da. That's the same stuff as Winterbird and Lucky, but it feels a lot different because it's so much faster here. And we have that slide away. As both of those, they slide up to something that is not right. They were on the right chord, away, and then they resolve before the rest of the chord resolves. There's a lot of random noise in the background there too, giving us a lot of different notes. It feels very like this kind of thing going on. Lots and lots of notes. Cool. So we had a post-chorus there, which while it didn't have the long 7 chord going into the post-chorus, it does still have it at the end. So we're adding bars on the end of these sections. As we know, we've done that in the structure already. You were there for the structure bit, right? You wouldn't just jump into the harmony thing.
I'm left behind with an empty hole, and everything I am is gone.
So this is back to the feeling of the first verse, but with much more dum 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 a melody. It's moving slower and more deliberately than I went too far and da 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 da. Right? This is I'm left behind with an empty hole. Very straightforward rhythm, and the piano is giving us just those chords. That's what's happening. So that's what's happening. Okay, same chords as the chorus, not same chords as the verse though. And same order as well. Now, how does the melody fit? Well, those first 2 notes, in fact, all of those 3 notes are not over that chord, that C minor chord. We get the, essentially the 7 of the chord. We're comfortable with that at this point, but then I'm left behind. F, now F's not in that chord. D's not in that chord. If this was a B flat chord, I'm left behind with an empty hole, it would be totally fine up to empty hole. But we've decided to pick a chord where none of those notes match. It's fun. It's a fun idea. Again, on this E flat chord, the C doesn't match. If we stayed on the C, it would have fit, but we just moved away from it. Now, admittedly, that is the same notes as a C minor 7, but it's now with an E flat in the bass, so it feels like this oddly bright kind of chord. We often call it a 6 chord. Yeah. Then we move on to the G minor. We have the same melody, but it has a very different relationship to these chords, and is very comfortably in that G minor chord. New thing, well, that would be our 7 there, and then that's the 5. So da 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 feels a lot more comfortable, doesn't it? Whoa whoa, and everything I am is gone. Let me just listen to that again.
With an empty hole, and everything I am is gone.
Yeah, I did mess it up. And everything I am is gone. Let's give it one more go, just to check.
With an empty hole, and everything I am is gone.
Yeah, there's a slight melisma on am as well, but I'm not going to write that in. And we actually stay down on re. And everything I am is gone, is gone. It's interesting, I paid so much attention to the rhythm there, which is almost unimportant because there's no moving parts. Well, the notes, okay, well at least I corrected them right. So yeah, so da 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 da. It's interesting though that we do single out that note to the top, which is not really part of this chord and feels a little alone by itself. Quite a strong move. I am is gone. So I thought it resolved, I am is gone, but it doesn't. I am is gone. The melody resolves to our B flat. It really feels like a B flat melody. But the chord is an F chord. So we've got this relationship between the A and the B flat and the C all cramming into the same space. Same octave as well. So there's a load going on just in that middle bit, even when there's barely anything else going on.
I try to reach for another soul, so I can feel whole.
Okay. Okay, so here we've got the same, pretty much the same melody. I try to reach for another soul, so I can feel whole. A little bit of a delay for that last word, with a little bit of a catching the breath in between. That's nice. And this first part, we've got some nice intermittent harmony. So again, we're on the C minor chord, and we give those 2 notes to begin with, and those. Okay, so this is really very much a whole B flat chord there against the C minor. So again, we're 6 notes deep in this chord, and then yeah, sometimes those harmony parts seem to disappear here. We then move to the E flat chord down here, and we've got an added 6 on the melody, another soul, and we've also got another soul, extra added F. So this is a 6/9 chord. We haven't had too many of these. Very popular as sort of ending chords in jazz, of a certain variety. We then actually lose all those harmony parts, and we resolve a little bit more comfortably into the chords, but as we know, those chords are not resolved in themselves. Interesting, I guess, word painting there for another soul. For another soul, we've added in some very lush harmony with extra notes in it. That's the other soul. That's the other soul. And maybe this is a reach. We've also got our second melody that we have in the chorus, but it's very different here. It's up an octave, and it's very clearly on that F to begin with rather than the G. We've had trouble with this low F for Aurora, so maybe she just didn't do this in the other part because it was too low. That might be right. That she doesn't sing that low F very often, especially at this time. But otherwise, this is pretty much the same thing, and it's over the same chords. Oh, no. But it does sound different, doesn't it? It does sound different in that particular range. And it's hovering over the main melody as well, especially, all the way through. It's there while the melody is down there, and then right. So they're moving together but apart, not taking each other into account very much at all.
Oh, give me some love.
Well, I apologise for what I said about that low F, because it's right there. It is a little bit husky. Oh, give me some love. Now, yeah, that's this one. And then we've got these big 4-part harmony chords here. G minor 7 to begin with on that C, giving us a really extended chord. 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11. Again, 6 notes, but it's only for a brief time. And then we come quite comfortably to the same notes again. The same 6 notes. It's a B flat chord on a C minor chord. And then we get the same kind of thing. And then it comes down to this. Yeah, again, like we had in the post-chorus there, or the second part of the chorus, we've got this unusual relationship of these 2 notes against that E flat chord, a little bit dissonant, and then just thirds with a high octave, not that though, yeah, G minor chord at the bottom. So that sounds very similar to the previous bit. What's happening with this melody? Give me some love. It's actually the lower version of the first one from the chorus. But we don't go down again. Love. It just stays, give me some love. And then
Oh, give me some love.
we go up a bit and we have this fun love, cutting the word in half. We've done this a couple of times, but this is the most overt version, I think. Love, maybe not with the glottal like I'm doing there. Love, maybe. Either way, doesn't really matter. But yeah, going up the scale there as well. So we've got these 2 parallel move. Well, okay, they're not parallel to begin with, but that's there. Well, we're on this chord. Resolves, doesn't resolve. So it moves away from the resolution towards what's coming in the next section. Okay, which is another chorus. Let's move over. Here we are. Okay, interesting how we started there with the second melody. We didn't go, crying, give me some love. This time we go, oh, give, straight away in. And that's starting on the more abrupt note of that second, isn't it? So after that F, oh, give. It fits in the F, but it's still a little bit of a real shower note, rather than the rather than the B flat. B flat might be higher and more showy in that kind of way, but this is more melodically moving, I would say. Love. We get that second one, and then we get it again. But before we talk about that, we also get give me some love underneath. It's almost buried, but it is there, and you can hear it especially when we get the love underneath in that later part where there's not as much going on. And yeah, we get those 4-part things as well. Great. Yeah, so with all these soupy, syrupy things, it's not easy to make a definitive say of what each of these chords are. Basically, the bass is doing its own thing. It has some allies doing those chord notes in the thing, but we also have da ba da ba da, just holding that B flat, which admittedly is in the second chord and the third chord, and then we have these, and we have the melody, which is doing its own thing as well. So loads of things going on there. This is like, I would say this is closer to what goes on in a lot of pop music, is you have a lot of things just pushed into the same space. It's not something that has happened a vast amount in Aurora's music up to this point, and I wouldn't say it's something that happens generally in Aurora's music, although there are exceptions to that, and this is one. Mostly things don't quite feel as disconnected as they do here. Sorry. So in this section we also get those added things this time. Same post-chorus that we had last time melody-wise, but we get the thicker version of that. We go... gosh. We get that, and we get "Give Me Some Love" as well. Yeah, still very buried, but we can hear the Okay. So we've had that melody happening before, but this time it goes up. It goes up to a G, and that's nice, leading us into this coda section. Now, yeah, that continues on a little bit. We've got the chords of the chorus still going on, and we've got these melody parts. This second melody with all its harmonies. Now, I've written it pretty crazily here because I can hear one voice sticking out in comparison to the others, which is this middle voice, while the others are going. It's doing something slightly different. Let's hear it again. And then they come together for that final one. Maybe it's doing that the whole time, but I couldn't hear it on the previous versions of this big 4-part harmony thing. It could be though, and it looks a little weird how I've written it, but it's basically going back down to 3 parts. Yeah, there might be a middle voice as well. There might still be 4-part. Yeah, and then we get this weird moment of those before they resolve. Yeah, hang on, not quite like that. Yeah, like that, and then the straightforward thirds. Oh, like that to end. And again, it doesn't end resolved. We end on what's essentially a B flat chord there from those notes, and an F chord here. So yeah, an interesting one. I guess to some degree it does fit this song not to have that resolution, because this is sort of about well, as from what I can read, it's about caring about someone too much and that being embarrassing and ruining the relationship and ruining how you feel, something like that. I mean, feel free to tell me I'm wrong, because I don't look at these things very closely, but that's what it seems like to me. And so having that chord be the resolution chord, or the finishing chord more aptly, feels quite appropriate. Yeah, it's a nice way to end it. Yeah, there we are. Not one of my favourites, but it's got good bits, like I say. So where does it fit then on the top 10s, which is my favourite? Instrumentation is an interesting one. I really like how the voices work in this one, and that there's so many, and they have these big block chords, bigger than normal, in Aurora's music. So that's nice. I think generally the instrumentation is not that interesting. We've got piano as an acoustic instrument, and then otherwise it's pretty wishy-washy synths and some slightly buzzy ones. So that's not massively interesting. Where would I put it? I think I'd probably put it higher than Lucky, No, and yeah, even Conqueror has more interesting stuff there. So let's move those guys down. Bye bye puppet. Oh, I guess we should get rid of puppet, shouldn't we? Let's go. Oh dear, poor old thing. Okay, and then texture-wise, though, I think is where it really falls down. I really don't like the texture. So is it even as good as Conqueror's texture? No, I don't think so. I think it's just too both dense and sparse at different times. It just doesn't have that much going on with it. Like there's no really lovely sounds to hold on to. It's just this kind of wash, and that's why I think it doesn't even deserve to go on in texture. Structure, I mean, the structure is absolutely generic. We even repeat a verse in the second half, in the second verse, as in the second verse and the fourth verse are very, very similar. So I think it's hard. Okay, one thing that's good about it is, okay, two things that are good about it is we have those extended bars at the end of the choruses, and we do have a post-chorus section, so that's something. So I guess we can put it higher than Puppet. We can probably put it higher than Conqueror. So I do like Conqueror's pre-chorus being so fast, but yeah, I think let's do that. I'm sort of feeling bad about Inboxes being so low on this list, but that's where I've put it. I must have had my reasons. Harmony. Well, the harmony is very straightforward. We have 4 chords and they repeat most of the time, but a lot of the time we have things against those chords which make them a lot more bloomy and interesting. So I think we're going to push off Puppet, we're going to move Conqueror down. It's crazy that Runaway's that low already, but Runaway does have more interesting harmony by far. So yeah, so it's just Conqueror that we're pushing down. Bye bye Puppet. Melody. Well, the melody's pretty good, isn't it? We've got lots of different parts of the melody, and it uses anticipation notes really effectively, I think. So I think we can bump this one a little bit. Yeah, though even then I wouldn't put it higher than Running with the Wolves. Maybe I would put it higher than Inboxes, although Inboxes has a rarer melody. It has less standard melody. But it's nice how the melody is really occupying its own place, isn't it? And we do have that big 7th jump. Yeah, I think we can be a little bit kinder to the melody here. And rhythm, I mean, there's quite a lot of good rhythms in that extra thing that comes in. I don't know. I guess rhythm is decent. Is it better than Winterbird? I think Winterbird uses rhythm more effectively. It's probably better than Understars, so that's where we'll put it. Brutal. Has that knocked Puppet off entirely then? I think so. Awakening is just hanging in there. In fact, Awakening is still doing okay. It's got one that's 2 above bottom, but yeah, I mean, Puppet was never going to stick around for very long, was it? It's lovely, but it is basically the first song released. Okay, and let's write in I went too far. Now it's 4 words, so we are just going to abbreviate. Oh, that's very, very thin. I went too far. There's going to be a time, I reckon, where I accidentally abbreviate some offensive organisation here. It's just an Aurora song. but I have accidentally written, I don't know, KKK or something. That would be embarrassing, wouldn't it? I'll look forward to the Aurora song that abbreviates to KKK. I think that's a long time in the future. Okay, nearly done. There we are. Okay. Sorted. Well, yeah, I'm not going to continue and do the other one now, because that did take me 1 hour and 10 somehow. There we are. I'll do the other in the week, and I hope you have a good week and a good life, and etc. Yeah, bye.